Welcome to the object of the game. I'm Maureen Kyle with Coach Chuck Kyle. And I realized as I was looking at our episodes, we haven't really talked a lot about, our town's top team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, which we've had a lot of guests on here. We've talked a lot of football. We've talked leadership. We've had ex-athletes, but we can't not talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dad.
They were a little busy, okay?
They have been very busy. I know.
Give them a chance here.
But the excitement around this team is just, it's been growing all season. And now we are just on the verge of playoffs. So I'm happy to bring in our guests. We're bringing him in early today because we have a ton to talk about. We have John Michael, play-by-play announcer for the Cleveland Cavaliers, someone that I've actually known even technically before you got the job, because I have to say, our kids, I have 3, he has 2. The two of them match up. So we have been parenting in various aspects. In the classroom, we've been on the sidelines together for years. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm thrilled to be here. You guys know I'm big fans of both of you, not just on this show, but what you've done outside of this show as well. So thank you so much for the invite.
And this is the first time you guys are sitting down professionally.
That's right.
Actually, my dad has sat and watched you help coach softball for our girls.
I was in that,
I
was
I wasn't too hard on him, was I, Coach?
The good grandpa was in there.
10-year-old softball. I got really excited.
All high level stuff.
Hopefully he didn't hear me snoring.
But I really I've been meaning to get you on the show. I know you've been super busy with this season, but I think the fact that you get this front row seat is incredible. Your background is just fascinating. And I think that the audience would be really interested in hearing about how you got to this. And we'll get to all of that. But first of all, just what is it like when you're sitting here on the precipice of the postseason?
Yeah.
What's that feeling, even for you? I mean, you're a big part of the team.
What a year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what a year. When you look back at what this team has done, 64 wins. I think the biggest part for me is just the joy that this team has spread across this region over the last 6 months, for our city, for our fan base, for us, what we've gotten to enjoy. It's the kind of group that is easy to rally around. Yes. They have the blue collar mentality. It's a bunch of terrific individuals in that locker room, both on the floor, off the floor, just a great group of guys. And like I said, I think it's been an easy group to rally around. It's been a special season. I mean, 64 wins, and off we go into the second season, hopefully for the next 2 months as we roll into the playoffs.
Being just a fan, what's exciting? Seeing the second group come
in.
Now, that doesn't happen too often. You got your starter. Okay, second, hopefully you can hold the score. They come in.
No
it's
question.
Really interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch what they do.
That's a big reason why they've won 64 games. I don't think there's any question about it. And you think, too, I mean, Kenny Atkinson deserves a ton of kudos. I mean, here's a guy who comes in to a team that's pretty well established, right? This was a second-round team last season. They won 48 games. Kenny comes in and effectively, with the same roster, ups the win total by 16. Takes an offense that was middle of the road, 16th. They're number 1. They win their first 15 games. But one of the most important things that he said, and it was in his first press conference, we are going to embrace this team's depth. And that's precisely what he's done. He's gone 10 deep all season long. The minutes for the core 4 are the lowest that they've been either in their careers or as a Cavalier. And now as we sit here in mid-April, that's one of the most important things that this team has going. They're effectively all healthy coming into the postseason, something they didn't get to enjoy last year. The minutes have been down. Now they're ready to roll into this first round. So I think Kenny came in and said, this is the way we want it to play out. And remarkably, that's exactly what's happened over the last 6 months.
For me, a fan, I'm happy for him. Yeah. I'm really happy.
I'm a huge JV guy.
And to see that happening, that's neat. That's just, to me, neat.
Yeah.
And yes, we got, and the interesting thing, I mean, Kenny Atkinson got relieved of being a head coach a number of years ago, right?
You did.
And then, you learn from things.
Right.
And JB, I'm sure, learned from things, and look what's happening for him too. And it's so nice. I think because he gets a little credit for this.
Yeah,
team.
I mean, no question, Chuck. And these are the top 2 finalists right now for Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
Possibly Ime
wonderful.
Udoka in Houston. He's in there. But
That is so neat.
right, then the Pistons organization, that's a team that's been dying for a team to even be competitive for the last couple of seasons. That's a perfect situation for JB. Like I said, I'm a big JB Bickerstaff fan. He treated us perfectly over the last couple of seasons, treated this team and franchise well, moves over to that Pistons situation. They're a playoff team, but Kenny elevates this team just to another level. It was a different voice. You know, at times that's what a franchise needs, and I think they hit it perfectly bringing in Kenny.
They got it. That right there is so true. I mean, they hit it. I hope.
I hope. Yeah, we all have. You know, going back to what you mentioned too about the minutes played. And I think that's what strikes me most about this team. Just as a fan, again, no expertise in basketball here, but watching these guys not really play with an ego, but play with that team mentality. Talk to us about like that philosophy of minutes, you know, like reducing the minutes and letting the other members of the team.
I think I don't want to
jump in. Go
say
ahead.
that you're going to answer that. But this guy goes to their practices too. I
Yeah.
don't think the audience realizes that. They think the announcer shows up and just, hey, what are you doing tonight? Who we playing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they kind of think.
Yeah.
To answer that question, yeah, he goes to the practices. He can see them having that kind of unity in practice and that development. So that's a good question.
It's a
and
great-
this is
Yeah, because you see it on the court in front of the crowd, and then on the court when they're practicing.
Yeah.
So talk to us about
It's
that
a great
chemistry.
It's a great question, Maureen. And think about this. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, he's a 6-time All-Star. He has the capability of scoring 30 points a night, right? But if he goes out and scores 30 points a night, you know, you do that at the expense of your teammates. This doesn't work if Donovan Mitchell says, I need to be the man, right? I need to be in the MVP discussion, which he could be, right?
Sure.
Easily, which he could be. He could go out every night and go for 30. But one of the first things he said was, we need to empower others, in particular, Evan Mobley. He's at the top of that list. And boy, the strides that we've seen out of the 7-footer this season have been immense. This guy should be the Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. It'll be a crime if he doesn't get that award. And his offensive game has picked up dramatically. So that's where it started. And again, you know, the minutes are coming away from these starters and they're saying, great. Right? They're not saying, I need my minutes. I need to play, because some of their numbers, scoring numbers, are down. Some of their assist numbers are down naturally because you're playing fewer minutes. But guess what's up? Wins, right?
Yeah.
Guess what's up? The seed, right? I mean, this team's a number 1 seed, and for the first time in franchise history, we sit here and have to await to see how the play-in tournament is going to play out, to see who this team will get in a little under a week. So I think it's been great. It's taken a ton of sacrifices. Your question's dead on, Maureen.
Yeah.
It's taken a ton of sacrifice from this team, which starts on the practice floor, Coach. And it starts in September. It starts in training camp, and it's built from there. And I think it's manifested itself beautifully in what we've seen out there on the floor.
Do you see any other team with that mentality? I mean, because you're seeing them play, but like,
It's a great question. It is different. You don't see it a lot. Basketball chemistry is so critical. So critical in basketball. I mean, baseball doesn't matter if your closer doesn't like your home run hitter, right? It doesn't matter necessarily in football if your middle linebacker's not crazy about your right guard.
It
you know,
only frustrates the coach.
That's what I'm saying, right? But in basketball, if you have guys on the floor who do not like each other or don't care for each other's games, it's going to show. And that's there's none of that here with this Cavalier team at all. There's none of that. You know, again, you look around the league, you hear buzzwords like chemistry, right? Oh, this is a team that has a lot of chemistry, and they're rooting for each other and everything. But this is, I think it's authentic what we've seen, and it didn't start just this season. It started over the last couple of years. But I think it's a huge part of what this team has become, and you know where it could go into the future as well.
it's wild to watch. I mean, and you mentioned Evan Mobley, and he's just been so fun to watch. So you're telling us that, like, at the beginning of the season, it was those team leaders that are like, we got to make him stand out.
Empowering's a word we hear a lot.
That to me is so
the
endearing.
7-footer stops at the 3-point line and buries him.
Oh, I know. He's been.
How do you cover him now?
Yeah, well, right.
How
But
do you
yeah.
cover him?
But
Put a guard on him?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're of a coaching staff or some teammates that are like, no, Evan, just get down low
Yeah.
and do your 7-footer
Yeah.
thing, that it doesn't happen,
Right.
right?
Right.
They encourage
They-
this. And there was, you look back at last season, maybe the
Yeah.
beginning of this season, this is not the smoothest of transitions to get a 7-footer who's confident enough to hit step back threes, right? To hit threes in transition. It takes a while. It takes growing pains, and the team was able to live with it and, see what we have here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating. All right, there's so much to talk about because I want to talk to you about how you get to travel around, you get to be part of the excitement, and also you probably have one of the toughest jobs. I mean, that is just to me to sit there and having been in broadcasting my whole life, to sit there and have to ad lib moment by moment is not easy. So we're going to talk to John about that. Before we get to the break, I want to thank Infinity of Beechwood and Akron. Dad, your friend, Jamie Pilla, is one of the
Yes.
new owners.
Yes.
I
one of
didn't
the new
realize
old-
he coached
Coach
with you.
Jamie. No, it's
Coach
not just
Jamie.
Jamie. It's Coach Jamie Pilla.
Oh my
he,
gosh.
He helped coach, yeah.
Well-
He was doing the freshmen, and then, he'd come up and help a little bit too.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I,
good
I-
guy
I
to
didn't
know.
I didn't realize,
I know.
because he has several dealerships. So,
Yeah.
he's a
So he knows
true
what he's doing.
businessman. Oh,
He knows
does.
exactly what he is
Yeah.
doing.
That
So-
means cars for the hosts, right? Is that
Right.
how that works?
It
I mean,
means-
clearly.
Is that what we're hitting on here?
That means Coach
Which
Kyle's
makes
gotta
sense
go
to
test
me.
drive, right?
That's all I'm saying.
I could use a new car.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been getting a lot of information about some of the cars that you can get out there and drive. You can get behind the wheel of the completely reimagined, entirely redesigned Infiniti QX80. Beautiful vehicle. Built for comfort, designed for performance, and crafted to impress. It is a top pick for the IIHS in terms of technology. And it's one of those that you got to get behind the wheel and test drive for yourself. So, Jamie and team, thank you so much for sponsoring us. We can't wait to get out to your dealership and take a test drive. And when we come back, more with John Michael and an inside look at the Cavs season and what's coming up for the postseason. Welcome back to the object of the game. We are talking basketball. We are talking Cleveland Cavaliers. I know that whether you're a casual fan or a diehard fan, this season has just been so exciting to watch. Not knocking any other seasons, but for some reason, this season feels really different. And we have John Michael, play-by-play announcer, who gets a front seat to it all. And would you say that this season has a different feeling than seasons past? Or
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, again, winning 64 games has a little something to do with
Right.
that. But I mean, I'll let you know a little secret that they're always fun.
Yeah.
Even when we're winning 15, 20 games, those low moments, those low seasons, it's always fun. But man, it's when you have a season like this, you get on the plane and everybody's happy, right? Not the players, the staff, the coaches, everybody's happy. You're on the practice court and everybody's thrilled to be there. And that's not always the case. I mean, especially the dog days in the NBA are in February and in March, and it's a real grind at that point. There aren't very many practices actually by the time you get to March, but everybody's thrilled to be able to get on the court and to keep on moving and to continue the momentum that they'd built really since the beginning of the season when they won their first 15 games. So there has been something special. It's felt that there's something special in the air here over the last couple of months.
did it start that way or has it been growing?
I think it's been growing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, you get on a streak like this
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of waiting like, at some point this has to go sideways, right? I mean, you don't.
Are they peaking
They're
too
not going
early?
to. They're not going
Peaking
to.
too
They're
early.
not going to go on and actually win, 50, 60 games, and it just really never stopped.
Yeah.
You look at, some of the streaks. They had 3 streaks of 12 wins or more this season. If you have won 8-game winning streak during the course of a season, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
They had a 15, a 12, and a 16.
Yeah.
This
the
season.
NBA, they're
Yeah.
all pros.
Yeah. Right.
They're all good.
Yeah.
And just the way they've been able to do it, the way they've won games at times this season, they've been overwhelming some really good teams this year, and just the way they were able to stick together and deal with a stretch in March that was wild.
Yeah.
They went from, I think it was February 22nd to, I believe, April 5th without playing consecutive games in the same city,
Oh.
which means that every home game in that stretch was won and out. And then
Wow.
back onto the road.
Wow.
So, I mean, again, this happens to all teams in the NBA. This is the way it works.
Yeah.
But they were able to handle it and still be able to come through it on the other side. And now they're ready. Again, they're completely healthy heading into the playoffs. And we're going to see what happens in round number
Young
1.
kids, listen to that. Young kids, listen to the teamwork,
Yeah.
the camaraderie thing,
Right.
and realize how that helps, that elevates your performance. That's what we're
No
hearing.
question,
That's what
yeah.
we're seeing. That's what you're hearing. And he's not just at the games. he's seeing him in practice doing this. Okay,
That's where it starts.
Kids,
Yeah.
listen to that.
Yeah, that's right. The coach is right. I mean, that's where it starts. That's where it all builds. I mean, we've seen this. We could see this coming since September. It's a little bit easier to say now that they've had so much success, and you can look back and say, oh, yeah, I mean, we could see that earlier, but just the way that they came together and the way they worked and the way that we mentioned it on the other side of the break, the sacrifice has been critical. It has been crucial. The sum of the parts, right? This is for a greater good. This isn't for us as individuals, and that's the way it's played out this season.
We're going to get into in a few minutes how you got into broadcasting and play-by-play, but I want to talk about like what you're doing right now and just describe the job, because I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking, he has my dream job. Like, so what does it entail? Because we said, you go to practices. A lot of people don't realize that. But what is like a day in the life? Like, what is it that you're doing?
Usually, we tend to say, rule of thumb, at least for me, is you prep 12 hours for a 2-hour game. That's in the middle of the season, right? That's once, the preseason is when you're prepping for months and months and months. So we're constantly reading, constantly updating. It's interesting because once the game starts, you just don't know what's going to happen. So you prep as much as you can. You prep and you prepare and you get ready for, you try to be ready for every possible scenario, but you can't. At that point, you just have to trust yourself and trust that you've done the research, and there you go. But it's, I mean, obviously, it's a thrill. I've been blessed to be able to get here. If we're going to talk about it, it's not the most orthodox road to the broadcast booth. But
wait until you hear that.
But
stay tuned for that one.
No, and it's been great. I mean, the Cavs organization, starting Dan Gilbert, chairman down. I mean, just everything has been run perfectly, beautifully. All you could ask for, you ask for something to be able to do your broadcast better, and you get it. And that's the way it should be, and that's the way this organization has handled it from day one. So I have nothing but good things to say about the Cavaliers organization.
So you're well researched, headed in, and when you're sitting at that table, you've done 12 hours of research. Mm-hmm. What is it like? Like, are you really like in that moment? Does it come naturally to just give that play-by-play? Is it a lot of thinking really? I don't know, because I always think like, gosh, oh my gosh, you have to like think about which number, because I'm, as a fan, like I'm like, which number was that, with the other team. It's hard to watch all of the action and then spit it back out.
It's a great question, and I think it has to do with reps. I really do. I think that the more practice that you get, this is what I always say to young broadcasters, that you should always listen back to your games, always, and then critique them as hard as you can. I still do this every single day. I mean, again, this is my 14th year in the NBA, and I just critique the game, or game 82, right? And what I do is I write the things that I don't like on one side of the paper and the things that I like on the other side, and I usually have 4 pages of things I didn't like, and maybe one word that I liked. But the more you study that, and the more you become accustomed to, okay, I didn't like this, I'd rather do it this way, the more you continue to critique yourself and then make yourself better in that next game, I think it becomes more natural. But
that's coaching football. Just the important, you play the game, and say the next day the team comes in. Watching the film is just like what you're talking about.
That's right. That's right. And it's tough. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes that's no fun. That's right.
Ugly film sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's the kids going, oh, we played so well. And we did. Okay, now let's break this down a little bit.
That's right.
We played well. Well, wait a minute. Look at this. We're pretty lucky here,
Right.
It's like what you're saying. You have to realize you haven't had the perfect performance yet,
That's
right.
right.
And we haven't had the perfect game yet. And you're just but there's always tinkering to do.
Yeah, right? I truly believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Yes.
I mean that. And at any stage of your career, I truly believe that. So, and I talk to young broadcasters. You can get done with the game and drive home and say, I killed that game, and listen back and be like, you know what? Yeah. Maybe I didn't kill that game. Or you could, you can tell the youngsters who don't review because they might have a phrase that they repeat over and over that's irritating to the viewer, irritating to the listener, and you don't know you're doing that, and you never would if you didn't review. But the second you review, you say, oh my gosh, I'm saying this way too many times, and let's clean that up for the next game. So
all I can think of is that boom goes the dynamite. Everybody knows that video of the kid in college that just kept relying on that. Everybody has that word. So being with the team, though, is part of the job. So are you getting to know these players individually? Is that part of the job, or is that one of the perks that you get to interact?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the job only because you have to be able to convey their story to the viewer. I think that's something you have to do, right? To be able to. So many of these guys have wonderful stories. This Cavs roster, by the way, has a load of underdog stories, guys that weren't highly regarded necessarily out of high school, some even out of college, that have made their way to the NBA level and are now excelling. So to be able to tell those stories in a passionate way, in a way that resonates with the viewer, you need to know these guys, right? And we do. We, like I said, we fly with all the Tristan Thompson. I've known him since he was drafted back in 2011. That was my first season when the Cavs picked Tristan 4th overall that year. Kyrie Kyrie Irving #1, Tristan Thompson #4. So it's been 14 years together with him, of being in the practice facility and traveling and everything else. So yeah, you get to know these guys over the course that span of time. But I think it's not just fun to get to know these guys. It's more from a business perspective too. You need to do that to be able to deliver the best product to your viewer.
So do they have you sit down with them at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, and it's more
like a media.
It's a great question. Yes, but it's more for us. It's more informal. I mean, they get to meet the media members and the reporters and everything else, but we see them like after practice ends, and you just sit down and talk to somebody for 5 minutes, ask them how their family's doing, how their brothers and sisters are doing. And I think again, you glean more from those types of conversations than you do from anything else.
That's when you really get to know.
Well, we teased you with John's background, an unconventional way to get in front of the camera doing play-by-play. When we come back, we're going to talk about how he got started in this and the road it took to get to be part of the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll be right back. You are watching The Object of the Game, and our guest today, John Michael. You know his voice and his face from the Cleveland Cavaliers play-by-play announcer, and it has been just a fun season. I'm sure you've been watching, but he wasn't always a play-by-play announcer. And I just love your backstory because I think a lot of people out there would think that, of course, you probably majored in broadcasting and right out of college got into this, but talk to us about how you got into this and what you actually started out doing.
I always laugh because a lot of people obviously are, interested in perhaps getting into the business, and they say, well, what did you study? How did you get here? And I'm saying, I'll tell you, but I wouldn't do it this way. There are a lot easier ways to do this. So I went to Notre Dame, and I actually majored in mechanical engineering. And as far as I thought it out, I was good at math and science. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So let's take a difficult major. I was an engineer. So I did that for 4 years, realized that, instead of working in labs, I'd rather work with people. So I applied to law school. So I got accepted in Notre Dame's law school and MBA school as well. So I ended up staying in South Bend for 8 years. And after that, I was fortunate in Western Pennsylvania. I got picked up by the largest law firm, and I was a trial lawyer for 5 years. Which was going great, and it was fine, and I was doing well, and we were enjoying ourselves, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. Like I said, I liked it. We were doing well on the fast track to lawyer, to partner, or what how it works, the corporate ladder or whatever. But it wasn't something that I got home at the end of the day and said, man, I love this. And I've always been a person who my whole life, all I've done is basically watched and played sports, right? I mean, I don't have a lot of hobbies. I don't hunt. I don't fish. It's just sports. So much like, as you know, Coach, in Ohio, in Western Pennsylvania, on Friday nights, high school football is king. So you drive around and you go up and down the radio dial. And there's maybe 10 or 12 games you could listen to. So I was maybe a second-year lawyer driving around. I heard that. I said, you know what? I think maybe that's something I'd like to do. I'd just like to try it out, right? So I said, all right, how am I going to go about doing this? So I said, I need a demo tape. So what I did was I looked at the TV listings on ESPN Classic. There was a bowl game coming up. So I went onto the internet. I got the rosters. I took my dictaphone. I'm dating myself. Dating myself a little bit here. Like for you youngsters, you didn't used to be able to take your phone and click record. This was a little box with a little tape in it that did basically the same thing. But I called the game in front of my TV into the dictaphone, sent it out to a couple of high school sports networks, and got a call. Said on a Thursday, and said, our guy's sick. Can you do a game on Friday? I said, absolutely, and off we went from there.
Let's take a break now because I want to talk about the moment that you get your break with the Cavs and what that was like, and then we have so much more to talk about because he coaches little league teams too.
Let's get to the important things now.
You know,
All right.
but we've had a couple of guests where they have, they're on the major league level and then are helping to coach the little league level. So we want to get your take on parenting through sports too. But we're going to take a quick break. We will be back more with John Michael. Welcome back. Our guest today, John Michael, play-by-play announcer for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And John, when we took the break, you were talking about how you were in the minor leagues, then hockey, doing play-by-play for, all these teams leading up to the moment you get the job with the Cavs. How did that happen? Because you were radio before.
I was, yes.
Yeah. So how did you get that job with
Well,
radio?
my trip to Cleveland happened first, and that was before the Cavs. I was in the American Hockey League, which is the same as AAA for baseball. So it's one level right below the NHL. And I was in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I got a call from this new team that they were starting up in Cleveland, Ohio, the Lake Erie Monsters.
Yep.
And they said, we got your materials. And I said, I didn't send you any materials. And they said, no, we have them right here. I'd only sent materials to the NHL teams. The Monsters were going to be the affiliate of the Colorado Avalanche. So what happened was the Avalanche said, we got this guy's materials. You might want to take a look at this guy, right? So after they said, hey, we got your materials. I said, I'm not interested in making a lateral move. Then they said, well, okay, but 25 of our games are on Fox Sports Ohio at the time, and all 82 were on ESPN Radio. And I said, all right, well, let me think about this a little bit, and talked to my GM with Springfield, and he said, you're insane if you don't go and take that job, right?
Yeah.
So I went and I did. I interviewed and was fortunate to get the job, but it was great. I mean, just to be, again, so now suddenly you're it's a minor league team, but it's a major league feel, and it's owned by a major league, again, Dan Gilbert-led organization, and suddenly, you can feel the major league aura about everything. So I was there for 2 seasons, and at the time, the Blue Jackets were on Fox Sports Ohio as well. So the Blue Jackets saw me with the Monsters and said, hey, you want to come down and work with us in the NHL? So I made that move. But before I left, Joe Tate was coming to the end of his career, right? So before I left, they asked me, hey, we know you can do hockey, but can you do basketball as well? And this morning, the answer in this business is always, yeah. And then you can figure out the details later, right?
Right.
So, oh, yeah, of course. I thought of basketball, right? No problem. They said, no problem. They said, sit up in the stands, and we're going to we'll tape your games, and we'll just keep them just in case down the road. So that's what they did. And actually, it was the game against Orlando where LeBron hit the fadeaway shot. That's a famous shot in Cavs history. So I was up calling that game for my demo tape. So 2 years later, I was with the Blue Jackets. Joe Tate was ready to hang it up, and they said, hey, we have your tape here. We have, a lot of people who are interested in this, but would you want to be in the mix? I said, of course. So, one thing led to another. I got a couple of different interviews, and then they said, yeah, we'd like to have you back here to be the radio guy for the Cavs.
Oh my gosh.
So
What's that feeling like?
That's all. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was wild. It actually, what was great about it was during the NHL, the NBA lockout season. So I gotten the job in the summer, but they, both the Cavs and the Blue Jackets were kind enough to let me stay on doing hockey until that lockout ended. So I actually had 4 months of NBA ramp up. So while I was doing the NHL, I was able to study everything I needed to study in the NBA during that time, which was fantastic. And that season started right after Christmas. That was the 2011 season where the Cavs drafted Kyrie Irving and Tristan Thompson. So I had that ramp up time, and off we went here in Cleveland.
Oh,
yeah.
Those stories are, we've had John Telich and, Jim Donovan. If he were here, he would be going like the same, growing up with the business. And all of them, they're in these various little towns in the country. And it just keep your faith, keep working.
Yeah.
Demo tapes going here. Something's going to happen. You got to believe it. It's just, those are all beautiful stories.
Yeah.
They're fun stories.
Yeah. And I remember, so by the time you and I had met and parenting together, these little kids that we have, was when the opportunity, unfortunately, came open for the TV play-by-play with Fred McLeod's passing, which was obviously devastating. But for you, getting that call of like, hey, we need you.
Yeah.
How did that play out?
It happened really quickly because we were all still mourning Fred,
Mhm.
and it was almost more of a, for me, almost like a duty filled thing. They said we know what we have in you, and let's just go and do this. And I said, absolutely. And it was almost, if Fred had his way, he would have said, "Hey, snap out of it, you guys. Let's go. We have a team to cover right now." And that is what drove a lot of us to get to where we were that first season. Stop moping around. Let's go. We got to get going, and we have work to do because it was only a couple of weeks till the start of the season. So it was different because there wasn't a lot of celebrating. It was more of a, come on, let's just get this job done. Let's do it right. Let's do it in a way that would have made Fred proud. And that's something I still carry with me today. I think we did that. I think we did that incredibly well that first season and beyond, and put a product out there that not only would Fred have been proud of, but I think this city was proud of as well.
When we come back, we're talking with John Michael about parenting through youth sports, because he and I know each other from the sidelines of all these minor league teams that our kids are on, but what it's like to be part of a major league and then part of the little league when we come back. Welcome back to The Object of the Game. I'm Maureen Kyle with Coach Chuck Kyle, and we have John Michael with us today. You know him from the Cavs broadcast. He is the play-by-play announcer, but also dad extraordinaire with two incredible little athletes at home. I've gotten to know the kids since they were really little. They're adorable, Caitlin and Jake, and just some of the most incredible athletes that my kids have been a part of on those teams. Caitlin, especially, like playing with my Scarlett. I mean, they're adorable together, but Caitlin, gosh, what an athlete. And as you coach and you're imparting this wisdom on them, not just through sports, but lessons of life.
Yeah.
Do you think about like what you're seeing firsthand with the Cavs versus what you're seeing at the very beginning stages of their athleticism?
It's a great question because to me, I think it's dangerous to start thinking in those terms.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like let's put things in perspective.
I want to make a point too. Here is somebody who works with major athletes, and like there's so many parents out there, and you and I have seen them where they're like, "Well, my kid's going to make it to the Olympics." Your
point is a great one because again, you mentioned my kids are fortunate; they're the better kids on their teams, right? Mm-hmm. But again, I think these things need to get put into perspective really, really quickly. Like if your kid's one of the better players on his or her team in travel sports, right here in Northeast Ohio, right? They're probably, let's keep things in perspective, right? Mm-hmm. I think to me the most paramount lesson is just make sure the kid is happy. You know what I mean? That's all I care about. If the kid is having a good time, that's all that matters.
When we come back, I know you said math and science was your forte, but we have sort of an English lesson for you to wrap up the show. Right. So we're going to have a vocabulary word and a Shakespeare quote when we come back. You are watching The Object of the Game. It has come to the part of the show where we give you all a little English lesson. It's our Shakespeare quote and our vocab word of the day for John Michael, Cavs play-by-play announcer. And usually, sometimes we give a list of words ahead of time, but we had a particular word and theme in mind for you. If you want to, Dad, pitch it out there.
I have a whole list of themes that deal with life, but also deal with sports. Mm-hmm. Okay. And just your history, the word opportunity, and how important people have to understand. Opportunity is everybody gets an opportunity at some point. And to you, that what you did, that opportunity came, and you had to take a deep breath.
Yeah, a lot of them. Right?
Okay, it was a panting. Okay. But opportunity. I wish you'd just kind of where you're at now.
Yeah.
And you look back.
Well, and we've talked about it throughout the show. It wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy decision.
No, it's not.
It was a decision to, when we're talking about, if you're just joining us, leaving the profession of law, setting it aside to pursue play-by-play broadcasting and starting at the lowest level to do that. It also was a decision that my family was not very thrilled about. My folks, my dad said, wait a second, you went to Notre Dame for eight years to be able to, you're going to go in the dirt and call like minor league baseball. But it was something that I believed in and something that I fell in love with and something that I said, if I don't do this, I'll never know, so it was opportunity on one hand, but I think it was, I think having the internal intestinal fortitude to be able to say, I think I can do this, right? The belief in myself that I'm going to be able to do this, to overcome adversity, and it wasn't without bumps in the road. I'll tell you a quick funny story that it wasn't that funny actually. When I first started, I was getting going and you don't have any connections when you get started in terms of trying to find other gigs or other jobs or move up. And I got in touch with an agent who, he said, I talked to him for the first time and he said, all right, so what's your story? And I started telling him, hey, I left the law, I'm going into broadcasting in 30 seconds. And he said, stop right there. He said, I just wanted to stop you. I can tell you don't have the voice or the wherewithal that you're never going to make it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. And
do you ever call him now?
So I said, okay, good, and hung up. And, one way you could go sulk, and the other way I said, well, all right, well, maybe, okay, let's just keep rolling, right? Yeah. Honest to goodness, when I made it to the NHL, same guy calls me, and there's no chance that he remembered. There's no chance that he remembered who I was, but called me and said, hey, I hear you're, local. He's like, are you representing anybody? I said, no. He said, would you be interested in being represented? I said, yeah, I would, but I don't think I have the voice of the wherewithal to be able to.
Did you say?
It's exactly what I said. And I hung up.
Oh, no way.
I'm dating myself. You had to hang up back then, right? It was one of the most satisfying hang-ups I ever had in my life. Nice. Same exact guy called me back. Nice. But I think the point of it all is that there will be obstacles, and there will be people who tell you that you don't have a chance. And if you truly don't believe it and you let those people, influence you, then you're done.
I don't know anybody finished in broadcasting who doesn't have a similar story.
You know what I'm saying? I know.
Somebody said, you're never going to do this.
Right.
You're never going to make it.
Forget it.
Like after my first live shot where I blanked in the middle, that news director goes, you're never going to do that again. And now I was like, oh, well, I could have, packed my bags, moved back home. Yeah. But, I think that's a great message. Yes. Again, we always hope that somebody turns around and has their child listen to these conversations because there's going to be a lot of no's and doors slammed in your face.
Listen to, we said opportunity, but listen to what, there's courage to it.
Yeah.
Because you have an opportunity, you know what? You take a deep breath and you go. Mm-hmm. If you don't, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
I mean, people could tell you that takes courage to go, I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it. Here's my chance. I'm doing it.
Right.
And that's a courageous moment for anybody to do.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're glad you took all those chances.
Sometimes, most of the time. Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah. No, I'm less than fortunate. Yeah.
So we have a quote.
All right. I'm ready.
All right. Okay. Well, this is from Henry VI, which is, last week, one of the last plays that Shakespeare wrote. Well, this was number 3, and he was a businessman. Okay, so he was cashing in on English history. So Henry VI, Henry V, well, this was again the early plays, and I thought this was good. The quote goes like this: "He knows the game." That's a punctuation mark out there, okay? Which means more to follow. So, English teacher. He knows the game. Now here's the metaphor. How true he keeps the wind. Now let's think what that means. He keeps the wind. If you know the game, you're playing an outdoor sport, right? Baseball. Or football, you know the wind. You know the opportunity you're going to get with the wind. Basketball, there's no wind in it, anything like that. But the metaphor is just simply saying, when you have the wind behind you, it's time to go. and you got to know the game. You got to know when to go and when to back off. And that's a skilled person in what they're doing. And it's just, you can know the game, you can know your profession, but there's that moment coming up in these playoffs, man, right? You know they're coming, and you're the voice, and that's going to give you that opportunity because you got the wind, you got the voice.
I love it.
That'd be fun.
I love it.
That'd
Can
be
we
fun.
stay here for a whole class? Can we get an hour of this? What, we have to end the show now?
Yeah, and I told you
I
when
need
I
more
saw
of
you
this.
yesterday.
Are you
This
kidding
is
me?
how instead of like
I
go
love
clean
it.
your room, I got
Well,
Shakespeare.
listen,
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready for more.
Yeah, there you go, John. Now you're going to have to incorporate some Shakespeare.
I like
some
it.
of
Oh,
these
yeah, right in the
half-
middle. Well, it's the fourth quarter, and
We
then
have a lot of-
Shakespeare one's
We have a lot
dead.
of free throws. I'll make it work.
Yeah. But it is, I think that is appropriate. And also talking about, like the momentum and those opportunities to be able to seize that momentum you didn't see coming your way as the wind.
Hey, coach, you got the wind.
Yeah.
Got the wind.
Yeah.
I mean, how many? I can reflect back how many games in my career. We got the wind right now. We better take advantage of it,
Yeah.
and we know how to use it. You got to know how to use it when that is there.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Love it.
So did you ever have Shakespeare classes or did
A
you have
little.
it
I had a little bit in middle school. Yeah.
And did you realize that it would be
I did not.
related to sports
Oh.
one day?
I did not. I had no idea. But
See,
like I said,
some
I love.
broadcast.
Now, see,
If you quote Shakespeare, they'll be going, "Whoa,
Yeah.
what is this?"
Was that guy a lawyer?
Yeah.
Was he a lawyer before this? That's really brilliant. John, it has been so great to get your perspective on the team
Oh, you
because
guys
I
are
know
great.
you
Thanks.
you know so many of the behind the scenes nuances that it's interesting to hear you talk about it because it's some of those things that we wonder as fans, like, gosh, I don't know, am I wrong or is this team different? Is this team special? So it's great to hear you reiterate what we're seeing as fans and obviously get to hear your background, which I've been fortunate to know, but I'm so happy to share it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was a joy to be here
Well,
with both of
great,
you.
great.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure.
Hey,
I
we'll have to
appreciate it.
have
This
you
is
back.
great.
All right, now-
Anytime. This
Now
is
remember,
great.
John. Okay, the record's 0-0.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go.
They're ready.
Let's go.
They're
We'll,
ready.
we'll get you back postseason.
Perfect.
And kind of do a wrap up. It
I'm
would
in.
be great. Well,
I'm
thank you so much.
Thank you.
For Coach Kyle, I'm Maureen Kyle. This is The Object of the Game. And remember, you can catch all of the episodes all across any of Big Play Sports Network's platforms. We're on YouTube. We're live on X every week on Mondays. And also, check out the YouTube page for any episodes that you may have missed. And you can download the free app. That's where you're going to catch everything, all of the shows. It's free and it's available on Roku and iOS. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you back here next week.